Just like that, week one of the NFL season is officially over after the San Francisco 49ers beat the New York Jets 32 to 19, absolutely dominating the final three quarters of the game. And there's a lot of big takeaways about both teams, New York Jets and the San Francisco 49ers. So to start things off, let's look at the 49ers and what they did really well. They dominate the line of scrimmage, both offensively and defensively. The biggest question mark about this offense coming into the game was how are the four offensive linemen to the right of Trent Williams going to perform? Well, they did amazing both in the rushing game and in the passing game. To start off, the rushing attack did extremely well, even without Christian McCaffrey having 180 total yards on 38 carries. Jordan Mason had 147 of those yards, including a touchdown. And the majority of his big gaping runs came from either the interior or from the right side, showing that the offensive linemen outside Trent Williams are very capable of holding their own against what seemed to be a strong front seven of the New York Jets. Although they were missing CJ Mosley and Haason Reddick, the 49ers still did a great job warming up and showing that they can actually have a strong rushing attack with this really strong offensive line. Another impressive thing was just the blocking of the skill players and George Kittle. They were able to get to the second level of the blocking and allow for some more holes to open up for Jordan Mason. I think a big example of this was Mason's first touchdown of the game, where he ran through a nice gap on the right side. George Kittle pulled inside, getting to the second level, allowing for Mason to walk in and score his first touchdown of the season. And I think another interesting thing that emerged from this rushing attack and from the dominance was Jordan Mason's ability to be a factor this season of the 49ers. As we all know, Christian McCaffrey has had his fair share of injury history, having his first fully healthy season last year in a long, long time. So the ability of Jordan Mason to help lower the wear and tear on C-Mac will help this offense reach new heights because you're going to have an always fresh Christian McCaffrey. Yes, he'll play the majority of downs. He has a lot more elements to the game, especially passing wise, but having a reliable running back next to Christian McCaffrey will help allow this offense to maximize its usage later in the season, as C-Mac will be able to keep fresh legs, much like the Lions did with David Montgomery, allowing Jahmyr Gibbs to have fresh legs towards the end of the season when they started using him in bulk. So all in all, the offensive line did a great job in the rush offense, and the 49ers potentially found a nice running back too outside of Christian McCaffrey. Now, in the passing offensive line protection, it was also superb. Trent Williams, as always, performed extremely well. The right side did get pushed around a little bit, but they held their own in the passing game. They might have gotten pushed back, but they still gave Brock Purdy enough time and enough protection, allowing Brock Purdy to make some great throws and have the ability to read the field. And on top of that, Brock Purdy had a great performance, possibly one of the best games I've seen from him in a long, long time. Last season, I think he was a product of Deebo Samuel and Brandon Aiyuk. He had a lot of short design passes to get the ball out quickly to Deebo, get the ball out quickly to Aiyuk, and allow for them to carry the load. And Christian McCaffrey catch the ball within 5 yards, take off. And that was the case, and it was a fair assumption. But today, Brock Purdy showed that he has reached a new height when it comes to his passing ability. A lot of his big passing plays came from intermediate to deep passing routes to Aiyuk and Deebo Samuel, and he showed something that quite frankly, he didn't really show much of last season. These were honestly great statistics, great yardage numbers because of his capability as a passer, not just the ability of Deebo and Aiyuk to make something out of nothing. And the only times he had short routes were because he was able to escape the pocket and he had to find a check down. So the times he delivered short passes, he did a great job escaping the pocket and made the right decision. And when he had time in the pocket, he made beautiful throws. Jawan Jennings also did a great job stepping up as a wide receiver, especially with Aiyuk kind of warming up after having the long holdout due to his contract. And I think what we saw from the 49ers is just the tip of the iceberg because as they get more experience together, just practicing, they're going to reach new levels because Aiyuk will finally round back into form and then they'll bring back Christian McCaffrey and the offensive line is going to continue this cohesiveness, allowing for the 49ers to have a really strong offensive line. And if Brock Purdy plays the way he did today, the rest of the season, the 49ers are going to be a very scary sight to see, not only defensively, but offensively, which has been something that's been a question mark for a while. But if their passing game can perform like it did today, fasten your seatbelts. Now, looking at the other side of the ball for the San Francisco 49ers, and their front seven was dominant. The rush defense was incredible. Breece Hall ran for 3.4 yards per carry, and the New York Jets were incapable of getting anything going in the running offense. They weren't allowed to have a balanced offense going because the 49ers linebackers were flying all over the place. Fred Warner was dominant as always. And then when it came to the pass rush, it was truly incredible to see. Aaron Rodgers, the first three quarters of that game, was struggling to move the ball offensively because the pass rush was getting to him so fast. And eventually in the fourth quarter, he had to change up his releasing it basically as soon as it was snapped to him because the pass rush just kept coming to him and getting to him. The 49ers just did a great job in his rushing defense and his pass rush and ultimately dominated the line of scrimmage just like they did offensively. So all in all, the 49ers played a masterful game and they are barely scraping the surface, especially since Aiyuk needs to round back into form and C-Mac has yet to be on the field. So all in all, keep an eye on the 49ers. They're going to continue this dominance for the rest of the season, especially if Purdy can perform the rest of the year like he did today. Now let's look at the New York Jets, and we'll start off with the offense side of the ball. They were given a tough task trying to stop this really strong front seven of the 49ers. And obviously, if they could do it all over again, they would have a different week one opponent. But at the end of the day, the schedule shook out the way it did. The New York Jets need to have some more cohesion on the offensive line, especially with having, I believe, 4 new offensive linemen joining this team as starters with Ole Fasano, Tyron Smith, Morgan Moses, and John Simpson, with only 1 returning offensive lineman. So this was a makeshift line that didn't have much time together in the preseason in terms of playing on the field together in preseason games. So as the season goes on, this offensive line will continue to improve. Breece Hall didn't do well, but again, that is a factor of the offensive line not being able to protect and opening up holes for Breece Hall, just like they couldn't give time to Aaron Rodgers. Now, the one positive I will take away about the New York Jets and their offense was that Allen Lazard performed well. Now, I don't know if he's an elite wide receiver too, but he gives Garrett Wilson a safety net, showing that Wilson doesn't have to be the only wide receiver on this team making plays like he did last year. And if Mike Williams can come on the field a little bit more often after only playing 4 snaps in the first half and was basically non-existent in the second half, if he can get back healthy and provide some burst on the offensive side of the ball, I think this receiving core is going to be much improved from last year, as they only had really 1 receiver in Garrett Wilson. Defensively, the New York Jets struggled. They couldn't stop the rush, and they couldn't get a pass rush going either. And this is a very indicative sign of what the Haason Reddick situation is going to turn out to be. And now it's Haason Reddick walking away with a contract extension because the Jets need him on the team ASAP. The first quarter, the Jets did have a pass rush going because Quinnen Williams was able to be on one-on-one coverage and get a sack on Brock Purdy and bring a lot of pressure. But as soon as the 49ers realized the only real player bringing any pressure in the passing game was Quinnen Williams, they were able to double team him, give him stunts, and help add some extra blocking upon Williams, ultimately saying, beat us with anybody else. And the Jets, they couldn't do that because they didn't have anyone to fill that gap opposite of Quinnen Williams. So if they're able to sign Haason Reddick, bring him in, they have a reliable second edge rusher to help free up Quinnen Williams and also to bring an impact himself. They're missing Bryce Huff right now, so the best way to make up for the loss of Huff is by bringing Haason Reddick back. And then on top of that, if CJ Mosley can come back healthy after missing the second half due to what appeared to be somewhat of an injury, this front seven will be kind of back and revamped and reloaded back to where they were last season. I do think it will regress because it's going to be hard for a defense to replicate such a dominant season from last year, but they will be a much improved, better defense than what we saw against the San Francisco 49ers. And then bring in Haason Reddick, having CJ Mosley being back and healthy, that's going to just help this rush defense just like it's going to help the pass defense. So ultimately, if you're the New York Jets, you need to sign Haason Reddick. And here's the silver lining with the New York Jets. Although they didn't beat the San Francisco 49ers, they walked away with a big victory, and that's health. They have a lot of very important players at key positions that are dealing with age and health issues. Tyron Smith at left tackle, Morgan Moses at right tackle, and Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. And they all made it out the game healthy. The Jets this past offseason didn't have a lot of preseason work together. They didn't play the preseason at all. Rodgers didn't play any preseason games. So as they get to have the season prolong and progress, there's going to be more cohesion along the offensive line. Aaron Rodgers is going to be back into a groove. He showed signs of his old self in the game. And at the end of the day, if you can walk away with a healthy team after playing a tough opponent in the San Francisco 49ers, I think the Jets are going to be able to build some momentum in the next 4 weeks as they have an easy schedule and really gets things firing on all cylinders, as all it takes is time. There's a lot of lessons to learn from this game. The Jets will. They have a veteran presence at nearly every position, and they're going to be able to understand what's next and what they need to do to accomplish the ultimate goal of winning the division and possibly going very far in the playoffs. And as I mentioned, they have a nice 4-week stretch of games. They're at the Tennessee Titans. They host the Denver Broncos. They host the Patriots, and they're at the Minnesota Vikings. All 4 of those teams have glaring issues and problems along their teams, and the Jets should win 3 of those next 4 games. I wouldn't be surprised if they win all 4 of those games. And then their 5th game after that, they host the Buffalo Bills, which will be one of their bigger tests But again, they host them. The Bills had lost some players defensively. They're without a wide receiver one with Stephon Diggs being gone. And that's a game where the Jets can really test themselves and see how they do. You look at the San Francisco 49ers now, and as I mentioned, as C-Mac returns, as the team gets more reps underneath their belt, like the Jets with Aiyuk having hold out, the offense will be firing on all cylinders, and they're going to continue to be the favorite to make it to the Super Bowl out of the NFC. The 49ers dominated. They show signs of being a Super Bowl contender again. Well, the Jets had their ultimate victory with health, and they have a lot to learn from. But as more time comes together with this team, things are going to be A-okay for the Jets. Again, they have a nice schedule. Rodgers looked like somewhat of his old self, and I think he will continue to show more signs of life as a quarterback and be a top caliber quarterback in the NFL this season. As always, thank you guys for listening. Please let me know your thoughts and please subscribe.